The original OG with Dr. Cheryl Dossett is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for your support.
Greetings, my name is Sherrie Dawson and this is My Truth. I come to you today to share my vision for creating a new initiative which embraces the unique talents, strengths, and abilities of a segment of the population which is often overlooked. What I'm referring to are members of the African American or Black community in China. China is a vast land that presents vast opportunities for big thinkers. And as an African American female and a big thinker, I embrace the unknown. I look at China as an opportunity to leverage my talents and abilities because there's enough here in terms of resources to help you create a new life for yourself.
You know, my first teaching job in China, I was covering for maternity leave. And I had only been at the school for about 1 month before the end of the school year. And on my last day, I'm walking out, and this little girl in my class, she breaks down in tears. Okay, and I'm like, I just was astonished because I'm like, she only knew me for 1 month. So I go to ask her, I said, little girl, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And she says to me, you know, I remember the first time I saw someone black. And she says that my whole life, my mom and dad has been telling me to stay away from black people and that they're bad. And she said to me, she goes, but ever since I met you, I know that my parents know nothing.
There's an expression that the student is not above the teacher and the teacher is not above the student. This interchange and exchange between two people so dissimilar actually have more in common, because what she has also done was say to you, you know, Lao Shi, I understand that you deserve to be here, and I understand that you deserve respect, and I understand this whole notion of unapologetically Black in China. Good morning and welcome. This is Dr. Dasa from the original OGs, Overseas Game Changers. Oh my goodness, when I tell you that we are on the road, we are on the road. In fact, you know, to our audience, this is the first time I'm broadcasting live from San Jose, Costa Rica. And in fact, the young woman that you see next to me is broadcasting live from Barbados. Now, I'm not sure what area of Barbados she's in right now, but she'll tell us. I just wanted to say that today we're focusing on authors and publishers who have experience working on foreign soil. Anything about foreign soil, you know, I've got them and I've got you. So without further ado, let's begin this interview with HE, UN Ambassador at Large, Dr. Sherrie Walton. Not only is she my friend, she's my mentor and my book publisher as well. So I'm a little biased. So if you see me choke up, don't worry, just get some tissue, and we're just going to enjoy and have a great time this morning. So welcome again. Dr. Sherrie Walton, welcome to the original OGs Talk Show. How are you doing this morning?
I am awesome. And can I say thank you for inviting me on this amazing platform? You know, you have just a close spot in my heart, right? You have my heart, and you and I have been working together. So I'm so excited to be on your platform today. Congratulations for everything that you're doing. You're so amazing.
God bless you, and thank you. So let's get right into it. You know, the focus of this show is for Black and Brown expats to share their journey overseas. And one of the things I honestly learned, I'm now in my 29th country, I believe, is I feel like my journey abroad is a calling. Do you feel like you've been called into this role? And tell us a little bit about the roles that you're occupying and where are you now in terms of your journey?
Absolutely. Well, to answer your question, I indeed feel it's a call, but I also feel it's a birthright. As a spiritual woman, I always believe that we are called as our inheritance to inhabit the nations of this world. So I have really just taken that as a part of my life mission. My husband and I, my children, we're now in Barbados, as you mentioned. We came in probably about a little over a year ago from Houston, Texas. Came here on a 3-week vacation and ended up doing ministry work, which has turned to so many different roles. I mentioned to you off camera that I'm the CEO of the Daniel and Esther Network, which oversees over 15 different countries, helping kingdom believers become entrepreneurs and grow their brands. I have Walton Publishing House, which is also a global company where I help publish and write your books. And of course, you know that I work with those that are in China because I came over to see you for your book launch, and that's how we connected when you were on Foreign Soul. So I absolutely feel that it's a call, but I believe it's a birthright. And I just believe that many people are not tapping into it.
And you know what? I think let's talk about some of the reasons why people are a bit reluctant to go outside their comfort zone and expand their territory.
Yeah, I think it's fear. I definitely believe it's a fear of the unknown. The fear of not having a plan B. You know how it is in Foreign Soul. You don't have anyone that you know, so you have to depend on what you know, how you know, your survival skills, and who you are. And I believe that a lot of times people don't want to be the first. So I am the first in my family to live on Foreign Soil. I'm the first of my family to expand globally. And when you're the first, you don't know what to expect. So I think a lot of people, they have a little urge that maybe I could, but then they don't know how to create the freedom with their time, with their money. So that can be part of it. They're tied to a job. They're tied to responsibilities. I love the fact that I've created a global entrepreneurship life for the past 18 years. So when we came here for 3 weeks with our 3 kids, it was easy for us to just plot here on this land and work from here and never miss a beat. So I think people just don't know how to do it. They're afraid to do it. They don't know if they don't have a mentor or someone like yourself to guide them in that process.
Now, you said two things which are really interesting. So since I've been in the Caribbean area, you mentioned about your Esther Network. So I have an Esther mentoring program. I don't know if you're aware of that. And so I work with women of influence, distinction, and ministry, getting them to the point where they can expand their territory and go overseas. But what I find interesting as a solo traveler, it's just me I have to worry about. Let's talk about some of the thought processes and preparation that was needed for a family, which is very different because you have school and you have all those other responsibilities relate to keeping a family together on Foreign Soul. Very different from a solo person. I have 2 suitcases. Doesn't matter. I can pick up and go tomorrow. I don't have to answer to anyone. So how is that working? What was involved in the decision-making process? And was it your decision or was it joint?
That's a really good question that you asked, because it does make a difference. We're traveling with, it's 5 of us. And like I said, we came here on a 3-week vacation. When COVID took place, our children started being schooled from home, although they weren't homeschooled. They were schooled through their elementary and middle schools, because I have small kids. I have a 10, 11, and a 13-year-old. So when we came here, with all of their curriculum and everything. And then we oh, wait, we got to get them planted here. So I became a homeschool mom. So I had started practicing, with COVID, and I just fully translated into that. I hired a nanny. So I do have to say, I do have help that helps with the children, got them into tutoring services. It was very interesting, different foods, different things to do, a different culture. And this was their first time being here. My husband was actually born in Barbados. So we do have his citizenship and everything. So it was a little easy to translate that as far as that is concerned. But everything else was new, and learning how to shop in these stores and not having the convenience of the United States and everything that we're used to, or the brands that we're accustomed to. It was interesting. And we're still adapting. Like I said, we've been here a year now. We're still adapting. But I just found, honestly, moving with a family, the most important thing is to stay grounded as a family. And I believe that that's what's carried us year after year, even when we moved from Miami to Houston, Texas. Everything on the inside, the nuclear of the Walton stays consistent. So that way our children are very easy to adapt. So you say, was it a joint decision? Yeah, it became a joint decision because there were so many opportunities that started happening on this soil that we said, you know what, we want to be here. We don't want to get stuck where we can't travel back, especially with the COVID regulations. So it just became easier. We found a beautiful home with a beautiful view, more land than we had in the United States. And I just started saying, you know what, this living is good. I just hang out at the beach. I do my books. I work with my clients. So there are no complaints over here.
Yes, and I think in my experience, many people think like my life as a solo traveler is always one full of awe and adventure. But there are some other hiccups that happen along the way. How have you been able to connect with the education for your children? Are they in the school system there, or are you still training them at home?
So when you say the hiccups, the children was the biggest component of this, right? Because I wanted to make sure that it didn't affect their education at all. I wanted to make sure, they moved away from all their friends, everything that was familiar. So this was something that honestly, I believe that God had kind of been preparing our family when he moved us to another state alone with no family and friends. So for the last 7-8 years, my children have adapted very well. So the hiccups were definitely school, trying to just really figure out how to do the homeschool. Do you put them in private online school, international school? We looked at the schools here. I was about to enroll them into private school, but it just really felt right what we've created at home. So again, we're able to teach them at home, keep up on the curriculum. I have tutors that I bring in for them. So I just really came here and I just started doing what I do. I don't know if I can explain it very well as to all of the hiccups because I just said, okay, this is something that needs to be fixed. Let me do it. One thing people have to understand on foreign soil, it's still human beings. Everything you need, food, clothing, education, resources. We're just doing it in a different country, in a beautiful place. But honestly, once you've learned the basics of life, you really adapt to that wherever you go.
Yes. And one thing I do love, because listening to you, you're actually describing the essence of God as being very intentional. And the extension of his intention is to set you apart, to prepare you for the next journey, even though you may not be aware of it at the time. So in your case, I know your first encounter was coming to China. So do you believe that your experience in traveling to China was somehow influenced, was somehow helped you inform that, hey, I like this life. I like living on foreign soil. Was that possibly something you can say contributed to your ease in order to prepare to go, or did it stimulate your interest even more?
I think it stimulated because China wasn't my first out of country experience, but that was my first culture shock. China was different. That was the first time traveling by myself. I showed up, you had to wave me down at the airport with a sign to get my attention. This was my first time traveling by myself.
You had a lot of bags too, that's for sure.
This was my first time traveling by myself. So this time, honestly, was a lot more comfortable for me because here I was traveling 24 hours. I didn't speak the language. I couldn't read half of the signs, but it really did excite something in me. I think even just being around you and looking how you moved through all the trains and all around town, I'm like, wait a minute, this is kind of fun. So I think it was planted in me. It's actually always been planted in me. Like I said, my husband is from Barbados. And when we talked about it years ago, I said, I can't never see myself doing that. As a matter of fact, I'm like, you go, I'll stay. But then as my mind started to be expanded and getting around people like you and helping you tell your story, and I'm just like, wait a minute, this is something that's doable. So when we came here and we asked the kids, okay, do you all want to stay? Do you want to go? Of course, they're part of the decision making. They said, we want to stay because they got the bug, right? This is their first passport stamp. And they haven't made it back to the States yet. So they're loving it. So there are things that I think that are on the inside of us, but it's when we get around others that are doing it. That's why our environment is so important. Who we listen to is so important, because I'm like, wait a minute, if Dr. D can travel around the world by herself, surely I can jump on this plane.
It is definitely a call. It has to be something on the inside, and I definitely believe it's a birthright. For me, born in Germany. But let's talk about your birthing of your business, the birthing of your brand. Tell us a little bit about Walton Publishing, and when did it start, and what was the impetus that pushed it to where it is now? Because it's one of the most thriving publishing companies, publishing houses, and I think in across whatever global nation you want to think about. So I'll say your publishing business is really to the nations because you work with such a cross spectrum of people. Tell us about the birth of your business and a little bit about the clients that you work with, the authors and stuff.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned something earlier about how God prepares us, right? So, I started in entrepreneurship over 19 years ago. I was the first entrepreneur in my immediate family. Left my cushiony job in corporate America because I just said, this is not for me. This cubicle, this life, telling people when I need to leave, when I need to use the restroom. And I had a really good paying job. So of course, I was an insurance broker, the first African American insurance broker. So I've always been everything that I'm challenged with, I exceeded. That's just one of the things that I pride myself in. Like, okay, I came in entry level, but how do I get to the top? So that was my backstory. So I jumped into entrepreneurship with right after full time after I had my son. So after we had the business, we started learning the online business. I want to say over 15 years ago, we started just figuring things out. Social media was not the way it is now. I grew my first company. We ended up losing everything. Like, that's another story of how we survived homelessness and everything we went through. And then as we transitioned from Miami, Florida to Houston, Texas, it became women started reaching out to me about helping coach them. And, how do you have a successful life, a marriage, and then everything, so on and so forth. So I became a serial entrepreneur. So I went from helping coaching and consulting, which I still do today. And then a component of that became helping people write their books. That was not something I thought I would ever do, but I did, major in English and I'm really good at writing. So as more people started to reach out to me, I started with book coaching, in which I still do to this day, helping people tell their stories, those that have had a book on the inside of them that they need someone to help birth. I'm that girl, and I believe that's how you and I connected. So once you birth your book, then I help you publish your book, because it's one thing to write the book, it's another thing to reach the nations with your book. I believe even if you're in the United States, when I was in the US, you and I connected while you were in China. I work with people all over the world, Dubai and India, I have so many people that we work with. And when we work with them, it's generally to help them reach the masses with their message. And that's why I believe my publishing house has been successful, because it's not just about getting people published. It's helping people understand the true essence of who they are, helping them understand their purpose, understand the value of your voice, because it's one thing to want to write a book, but who wants to hear it? What's your story? What's different about what you're going to say that are going to have people connect with you? So that's how the publishing house has been birthed. And that's what I'm doing now. So writing, coaching, and publishing, and helping people take their brand to the next level. And when you say women that I work with, mostly professional women that are either transitioning out of corporate America, or women of the faith that have been stuck, women that have a dream, women that saying, okay, I'm at the second half of my life and I'm ready to do something new. So those are the women that I generally work with. I have a few men, but it's mostly women that I work with.
And I know that is a call to the nations, a call to help the women who are stuck and lost. And I understand that, because I know when we met, I was going, I'm so grateful where I am in my life now. I was going through a very difficult time. I had been fighting the demons of depression for so long. And I know writing the book, it got so bad, I had forgotten I had published a book. Most people didn't know what I was going through, because I was a silent sufferer. So the women who come to you, many of them, they think they're coming for book coaching, but they get so much more. Talk to us about the new direction that you're going in now, not just the coaching and the publishing, but we'd like to hear more. How are you also reaching the masses, the women who have been assigned to you? How are you reaching them? And give us some success stories.
Wow. That is a really loaded question. I was actually just having a conversation with my husband earlier today, just about a testimonial. What I like about the writing process, and I don't know if many people know this, writing brings healing. There's a way that you have to go back into your story. There are things in our lives that happen that we bury, away, the memory of it, the thought of it, the pain of it, the grief of it. We put those things away and we pack them and we make it look really pretty and neat, and then we move on to something else. But those things, if we don't deal with them, they will keep recurring in life cycles. They'll keep recurring in lack or grief or bad relationships, toxic. There's so many things that if you don't deal with it. So when women connect with me to write their book, it's always amazing. I'm saying it with a smile because I have so many success stories, even from just this week, of a VP at a major bank that connected with me. She oversees a large people that are assigned to her, but she connected with me to write her book. And she said, I cannot stop crying. She said, there were things that I forgot about from when I was an 18-year-old single mother trying to figure out life and was told I would never be anything. And now to get to where I am today, she said, I forgot about the pain of that. I said, you know what? You're crying about it now. It's not grief that you're crying about. You're reconnecting to that moment, because there are women that are in it right now that you need to connect with, and you need to bring hope and healing. So that's one story. And she just, went on to say she's just so excited that she connected, and this is such a blessing. I have another young lady that started a business over 10 years ago. She put the business away. Some things failed. She got back into corporate America, but there were things that happened in her life that made her feel shame and failure and embarrassment that she didn't deal with. So I took her through the writing journey, and there she was crying. She's like, I don't know why. I say, you all are not, it's not tears of weeping of sorrow. Right. It's a release. And there are things that have to happen. So that happens in the writing process. It helps people release, but you don't just stay there. It now says, wait a minute, now I get to see how I overcame. Now I get to understand the steps that I took to reach where I am today. And now I'm able to help other people. I have a mission to touch 1 million women around the world. And I said, I'm not going to physically touch them, I'm sure, but the women that I help, one helps 100, one helps 1,000, one helps, their voices will travel around the world, and I'm connected to that. That's what my assignment is. That's what my purpose is. And that's why when we create success stories, I mean, I have a slew of success stories, but it's really about the connection to who you are, understanding the value of your voice, now packaging your message in a book so that now you can reach more people. That's what I'm called to do.
And that's such a beautiful message. And it's in the marketplace, not in the church. And so this is something where we connect. Before I even realized that I was destined to be in the marketplace, I knew that I had gotten to the point where my soul ached. And there's a quote that I'll never forget about writing. Writing is your heart through your fingertips. But no, in my case, writing was my soul aching through the keystrokes. Mm-hmm. And so you meet many women who are at that particular juncture in their life that you just happen to show up, and they show up, and you help change the trajectory of their life. Always on this show for my viewers, my face cries, I cry a wail, I might kick my shoe off. Sometimes I have thrown my wig off on the show. It's so exciting. So, I'm very transparent. How does your transparency help mobilize the women to become more empowered once they start with you? And by the time they finish with you, not only have you developed a client, you developed an extended family, you've developed a friend. How are they able to keep going once they leave you? Do you have like an aftercare program for them? What are some of the things that you can offer these women? Because you don't just want to drop them off at the door and say, okay, like they do in China. Okay, bye-bye. Oh my God, that feels kind of cold. So how are you doing with an aftercare component? Mm-hmm.
So you asked a few questions there. So one of them, the reason that I believe I connect with these women is because I'm truly transparent. I believe that, I was raised in the church. I was raised around the things of God. And what I found then as I grew up, that everyone was not truthful about their truth, right? They appeared to be perfect. I thought as I became an adult, I needed to be perfect. And then life started happening and life started beating me up. And I started realizing, wait a minute, there's some things I need to learn about myself. My transparency with my clients from the beginning lets them know I have failed multiple times, but I am not a failure. So there are things that you have encountered in your life, you've experienced. Those are lessons. Shift your perspective on what you'll do with that lesson. So those are the things that they get as they connect with me. So my transparency allows people to feel safe. I create a safe environment. This is not a judgmental environment. We all have a slew of things on our lives that we wish we never did or ever happened. I believe that people just need to start being real. And like you said, you're real. That's why your viewers come back week after week. The other thing you said about how do I stay connected, it's so funny because most of my clients work with me for multiple projects. So I have clients that start with me writing the book, then they want to market with me, then they want me to help them build their business and their brand. So they stay around for multiple, they come back for an audio book or workbook. I will be putting out some other programs on that aftercare that you mentioned about, but they stay connected. They literally become family because I believe it's because it's such a soul connection that we make with each other that once they work with me, they're like, okay, they send their friends to me. Most of my business is off of referrals because after people work with me, they're like, oh, you have to work with her. Oh, she helped me bring transformation. And it just goes from there. Even if I don't hear from them for 5-6 months, they come back like, I got another project. I have clients that are working with me for 2 to 3 books. So I love what I do.
That's so beautiful. Well, Dr. Sherrie Walton, I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, this conversation is rich. It is mobilizing in terms of my thoughts. Like, okay, I have a lot of audios from my teaching seminars. I need to convert them into a book because some beautiful things are happening now. So I just wanted to thank you and just say our time has now come. It comes so quickly, but this could be an hour show. This could be a follow-up show, talking even about your book. I wanted to show your book, but I know I don't want to get it edited out. So we're going to have to do a follow-up just on your work alone. And so I just wanted to thank you. It's just been an honor. For those of you who missed it from the beginning, because some of you come in the middle, this is Dr. Sherrie Walton of Walton Publishing. She has been my book coach, my mentor. She has actually been my midwife, spiritual midwife, to help me actually get to where I am, that got me out of a very dark period. I'm just so grateful to God that we are still connected, that, one day is like 1,000 and 1,000 is like one day. I just want to say peace and blessings, continual blessings to you and your family and the work that you're doing with the Daniel and Esther Network, with your publishing. And I'm looking forward to you not only being publishing, but it'll be a media production where you're going to start birthing movies and films. And oh my God, I'm just so excited. That's the word of God going forth. Once again, this is Dr. Dossett, the producer of the original OGs, Overseas Game Changers on Preach the Word Network. God bless you. And thank you all for listening. And thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
So I go to ask her, I said, little girl, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And she says to me, I remember the first time I saw someone black. And she says that my whole life, my mom and dad has been telling me to stay away from black people and that they're bad. And she said to me, she goes, but ever since I met you, I know that my parents know nothing.
The original OG with Dr. Sherrie Dossett is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for your support.